Welcome to episode 12 of the Cougar Playbook podcast. I'm Carter Gledhill, and today on this week's episode, we have the men's soccer coach here at CUC, Coach Michael Arango. Coach, thanks for being with me today.
Oh, Carter, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to have me on. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, Coach, I've been wanting to talk to you for a while, especially after the season you guys had last year. You guys finally qualified for the NACC Tournament in your third season as head coach. What was that feeling like to have a 500 record, the best record in program history, and then also sneak into the conference tournament?
Oh, man, I can't tell you how it felt great. We've spent a lot of hours and weeks and months building to get here, and the time the guys have put in trusting in the program, trusting in the process. The support from the school has been awesome. And, man, to finally sneak in like that, it was something special.
Yeah, I mean, watching the games, I think I love talking to a lot of the players on the team too, because, again, when the preseason rankings came out for the NACC, you guys were picked to the near bottom. You guys weren't even thinking about close. And all of a sudden, throughout the season, you start creeping in and out, and then you finally make it to the tournament and you shock it. And I think it was unbelievable to see the response from your guys. Was that kind of like the mindset your team had throughout the whole season? Or did you get to the point where you're like, oh man, we can actually make a run. Hey, here we go.
No, it really started last year. So even though the results didn't give us a whole lot of W's last year, there were some games where we thought we were really close and we were almost as good as the teams we lost to. And then in incoming class and obviously a year of development, the guys came through and we honestly kind of felt like we should be in every single one of those games and let's see where the chips fall. And a couple of them we had some good bounces, other ones we earned very well, and there was never a surprise for us. I mean, we had these games on our schedule. We thought we had a very good chance of winning, and things went our way.
You guys clinched the chance to go to the NACC tournament when you guys played Edgewood College towards the end of your season. And when you saw the team after the game and you saw all their hard work paid off, how did it feel for you as a coach to see that finally here we go as a program? This is the turning page in what could be a long line of success for CUC.
I think some of the stuff you see is in the reaction of the players. They didn't want to leave the Edgewood field. I don't know how many pictures these guys took, but it was a ton of pictures. And it was a pair, then it was a group of four. The next thing is half the team. Then it's the whole team. And now they're looking for other pictures and other things. And I think that was really a moment where they're like, we really are happy to be part of this. And they didn't stop talking about it. When they got back, they were like, cool. We've worked really hard. We've earned this. This feels incredible. People on campus are giving them high fives and, pats in the back. But as soon as we got back, they're like, all right, coach, let's get ready for the next game. We're not done yet. And that was pretty cool.
I mean, getting back to work, and that's the most important thing, especially, a bunch of excited guys that just come off that huge win, and now you're in the NACC tournament. So obviously you mentioned at the beginning of last year is where you kind of saw the learning points for this team to get to the points where they are, get ready for the next season. As for you as a coach, where did it start for you to start instilling the values and the coaching mentality that you have for your guys to get them on board with the process?
It started day one. Every day we have a chance to talk to these guys from the recruiting process on and through the onboarding and all the way through preseason into the season, year in and year out. We try to keep a consistent message of trying to put them and give them the ownership and say, hey, you guys put the work in, good things can happen. And please come to practice with questions, come with the hard work and believe in the process. And the guys did. And it was awesome for the guys who were here in their second and third years. The amount of work they put in the off season has been absolutely huge. And talking to some of the alumni, they kind of joke around going, wow, I'm not sure I put all of that work in myself. And they were kind of could see the results as it came in this year.
I think that's the other, that's pretty cool. I think the work ethic that finally came around and buying into that process, that's the important thing. But now you get to the situation where COVID throws everybody in the world a giant loop. And now your season's been moved to the spring, but you have the chance now where you are able to start working with the guys, get back on the field, start doing some drills and small group practices. How has the team responded to that kind of adversity from the COVID situation and then also having their season now played in the spring?
Well, I think, after getting through the initial shock of getting everything bumped back and getting through those initial hurdles, the response has been absolutely positive. We've got some great leadership on the team. Bryce Bilodeau is our second-year captain, and his positivity is just infectious within the team. And we're already started getting into some ideas of how we may or may not play come this spring. And we did that in our second and third practices coming up. So we're already breaking down and preparing them. And so for us, we're actually looking forward to having the opportunity to train for 3 months before we have a serious competition. These guys are so used to coming in on August 15th, and hey, by the way, in 6 days, you got your first game. Good luck, freshmen. Let's get in the deep end of the pool. Now we can ease them into it and set the expectations, and we can increase those, ask more and demand more over time, and allow them to, I don't know, maybe enjoy being a freshman for a little bit and all that comes along with it. So that's new for us as fall athletes.
I never actually thought about that because I'm always thinking, man, football, you come here for a month almost before school year and then you have your first practice. And then I'm thinking about it with you guys, like, wow, I did not realize that you guys had that only like a couple days before your games. And then you just mentioned the freshmen are just kind of thrown out there to kind of learn on their own. But the guys now with the freshmen, they're building those relationships. And you mentioned you're going to have those 3 months of practice time and working together. How have the freshmen come onto campus and acclimated to the college lifestyle?
These guys are loving it so far. They're mixing in right now, and they got nicknames already and all this kind of stuff, and they're getting referred to in all positive lights. And it's really cool, and it's great to see that the guys who vetted the freshmen coming in, because they've all met these guys coming in, it's been rewarded. Now they're enjoying meeting and hang out with these guys on a regular basis, because obviously in the recruiting process, it's a 24-hour, 48-hour snapshot, but now you see them day in and day out. And the bonds are made pretty quick, and it's fun. And, you know, and talking with some of the juniors and seniors, and we're like, hey, do you see what the mistakes the freshmen are? Like, yeah, we can see it now. And that's kind of fun too, is having them nurture and mentor them along the way so that they can help them get that much better, that much faster.
I think that's really cool to see already. I mean, I talked to Coach Kohler last week about the idea that his guys on campus already gelling. And I think that's the important thing for a lot of kids on campus, especially a team, is when you have a negative effect that happened that you can't control. Obviously, you want to get down on it. But now as a team, you get to come back, you get to be around the freshmen, you get to be around returners, and you get to build that culture. And it only makes you guys stronger in the long run, I feel. But if you were to tell an outsider of someone that doesn't know you or the players and the team, the culture that you build with the program or what the team is really about, how would you tell them that?
I would say that we try to make it player-centered. We try to allow the guys to do as much as they can on their own and give them as much ownership as we can. Obviously, the soccer will lead quite a bit of it, but at the end of the day, they still have to do the workouts. They still have to do the studying. They have to stay out of trouble when they're not on the fields or in the classroom. And our guys are putting all that work into it and doing just that. And the bonds that they're making, it's really special to see. And that's the kind of stuff that we want to have, because at the end of the day, it's their college experience. It's not mine. And I want them to walk away, knowing, God, we had a really good college experience. Well, hey, we did some pretty good soccer stuff. We did some great stuff in the classroom, and I met some really great friends along the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way of putting it. I like to hear that stuff because, again, it's the life that goes on before and after soccer is when you're playing career, and that's important. Question for you about the recruiting. I mean, soccer is this huge sport. It's one of the biggest sports worldwide. And I could feel like as a college head coach, it might be intimidating at times to try to find players that might fit your playing style, or try to pick the one or two players from a huge pool of athletes from the Chicagoland area or anywhere in the state of Illinois in the region. How do you go about your recruiting process in order finding players to come to CUC?
It's a lot of, well, now it's some video calls. It is recruiting sites. It is friends. It is people reaching out. It's just kind of knowing the landscape and kind of having those connections already. So it's a lot of kind of just knowing the right people at times. Now, because of last season, we've had some more recruits reach out because they saw some success. Quite often they'll just go down through the records and go, okay, cool, I'll apply to these schools because of that, which helps as we dig through some players. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to having the opportunity to meet and talk with them, whether it be through a video call, or if we're lucky enough to do it in person, and getting a chance to know who they are. Because if they're not a good fit, no matter what the skill set is, they're not going to be good for the team. And so that's the hard part right there, is digging through that and reaching out and meeting them. So it's not easy. Sometimes a little bit of luck, other times a little bit of hard work. So it's a combination of everything.
Yeah, I think that's one thing too. I mean, the Zoom calls of all this stuff is really difficult to even put into, is another loop you have to go through, because the recruiting process is difficult enough. Now you have to limit the in-person stuff and contact. It's another thing that's been throwing everybody for a loop. Switching gears a little bit, outside of CUC, I see that you also hold the United States Soccer Federation Class A license. What does that give you, and where did you start to come up with all that stuff, and how has it helped you grow into a soccer coach and then outside in the soccer community?
Sure. So for our federation, that's the highest license you can get. And all that does is just kind of shows that you've learned the U.S. soccer pathway of how to coach. And so we've got that quite a while ago. And for me, I think some of the biggest lessons I learned is when we went through that is just because you've earned that doesn't mean you've stopped learning. And that was probably one of the biggest lessons, and that you have to continue to go out and pursue an education. And no matter where it is, whether you're traveling abroad, whether it's reaching out to other people who are college coaches, to other people who are in other industries and learning what they're doing, you have to continue that learning process, because the second you stop is the second everybody blows by you. And so all that, along with just meeting some really great people along the way and keeping you humble to know that, you know what, there's a lot better people out there somewhere else. How do you continue to grow and be better?
When was the first moment that you saw as yourself that you were like, I want to be a coach? I want to be a head coach, or just get involved in soccer in some way in order to help other kids?
Well, we're not going to go into years, but it was quite a while ago.
Okay.
I was a very, very young man when I started it, and it's been a process. So it's been a long journey, and I'm happy to see where I'm at as a coach today. I'm glad I evolved from where I was when I first started, because I'm not sure I like that person as a coach.
Well, then if you were starting as a coach, if you look back at where you are now and where you were be at the beginning of your coaching career, what's one thing you wish you could have told your younger self now that you have a lot of experience?
I think it's the personal reflection. Go back and reflect on everything that you're doing. Go back and reflect on the conversations you have. Go back on the preparation, and be honest with yourself. You know, go back and really dig through all the details about what's going right, what's going wrong, and be honest with yourself about all of those things. And I think as the older we get, the more we realize that that's really important part of the process.
I think that's another thing too, the personal reflection. That is very important, no matter what age in your life. So one of the things that I did see on your bio, and you mentioned about your coaching career, is that in 2015, you were the assistant coach for the women's soccer team. And then you now are the head coach for the men's team. What was it like to finally hear that you're going to be the head coach for CUC, a team or a university that you came to, you were an assistant, and now you're going to be able to head up the men's team? What was that like?
It was pretty special. It's almost hard to put it into words how cool that was when it finally came around. And, I can't thank Peach and Ann enough for giving me the opportunity to bring this to fruition, and having the trust in me that it will hopefully turn the program around. And I think we have turned it around in a great way. Not only the wins on the field, but our team GPA continues to shoot straight up. And there's a lot of really great things that the guys are doing right now on and off the field. So that's a great support from university, but, it's just been really fun doing it. And I think along that whole way, last year was the time we saw some of the girls we had recruited finally graduate. So we're on to some girls now and a new whole thing, and just bringing both programs together. It's been fun.
I mean, both programs, that's one thing that you can see, like the dynamic between. Has there ever been a time where you had a competition between the other women's team where you're like, hey, we just put up this many goals in a week, and you guys, on the other hand, maybe not? Have there any been kind of like that?
No, we haven't. And generally the schedules are so opposite about who's playing who in a given week. We probably can't do so much of that. And, maybe one of these days we should have a trivia contest or something like that, or I don't know, something like fun like that we should do. But I think maybe this fall we could probably figure something like that out.
That'd be fun too. But the reason why I asked that is because I remember in the wintertime, I'm walking in for practice, I see in the gym, there's like 3v3 soccer going on, and there's girls and guys playing each other. But to be able to have that team that you can relate to, talk soccer to, it's another family you can extend yourself out to. And you're kind of like the one right in the middle where you've been with both. What is it like to see both teams come together and able to share the love of soccer, and then also help each other out in the off season and then encourage each other in season?
I encourage players from both sides to have those friendly relationships on campus, because at the end of the day, you're spot on. Only a soccer player truly knows what a soccer player is going through. The struggles they have on the field, the struggles of training, everything that comes along with it, the growth process, and every sport's completely different growing into it to the college ranks.
Gotcha. All right, last question for you. I know we've been talking a while about CUC soccer. We talked about how this is almost a turning page, but what's one thing that you already see in the team that's been different than last year, from the team that qualified for the NACC tournament and now is going to be playing soccer in the spring and hopefully have higher goals for that?
The attention to detail already. Compared to our first couple of trainings today, this last couple of weeks, opposed to the last year, the attention to detail has already been higher. And that's really good. Generally, it takes us a couple of days to ramp in, but it's already been higher. So I like those things. The attitudes have been fantastic. The guys have been even more positive than they have been in the past. And none of them are going to be satisfied this year with just making the tournament. That's a nice thing to have right there. So they're hungry. They're not satisfied by any stretch. There's still plenty of goals to be had. So I think that helps us along the way.
I think that's a great way to cap off this episode of the Cougar Playbook podcast. This has been head coach of the men's soccer teams, Coach Arango, with me, Carter Gledhill. Thank you, Coach, for joining me. It's been an awesome time having you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me today.
This has been episode 12 of the Cougar Playbook podcast. Next week, we'll have a new guest. And as always, remember, go Cougars.